What up, y'all? Your boy, One Sir Grove, is studying particle physics. I ordered this book here to New York. It's Elsevi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I got a really good fucking deal on it. I ordered this book called Physics Letters, Review of Particle Physics. And the company is ScienceDirect.com. This book is a monster of a book here. I am looking at a total of 1,339 pages of information. Will I read this book in its entirety? Most likely not. Will I skim every single page of this book? Yes, I will. This is chock full of data that one would not ordinarily find in a university. Maybe, most likely, totally, for sure, at MIT, and some other universities, but mostly not, because I have been to universities, traveled, and visited, and gone through bookshelves of many different universities in America, and I have not seen this one to date. I saw it online, and I said, you know what? I've got to get that. I have to order that book. Again, it's Physics Letters, Review of Particle Physics, and it's from ScienceDirect.com. Man, I'm not just saying that, I bought this book, and it's this physics book, particle physics book, with which I am conducting research. That's not the main idea here. That's not the crux of it. That is not what I am necessarily pointing out, believe it or not, though I just did. The larger point in sharing this with you as I thumb through this over 1,300 pages of information is that when you view this information, by the way, thank you for tuning in. If you're a fan of this show, if you support this show, if you appreciate this show, that is I, along with 495, appreciate you. Talk about the real world matrix. One of my friends from childhood, he said to me close to 15 years ago now, he's a computer programmer. Back when computer programmers were called computer programmers, before they were computer software engineers, software developers. He's an old school programmer, just like I am. We started off with old school programming, back before object-oriented programming existed in the private sector. And so he and I, coming from a background of procedural programming as children, as kids, playing around with programming before there was an internet, we come from that world of old school computers, legacy systems. Flash forward 30 plus years, where he said to me like 15 years ago, he said, as adults at that point, not children anymore, he said, Grove, I'm on vacation with my wife and child. I think I was leaving Chicago for New York at the time, and because I had lived in Chicago, worked at the Department of Justice, between Bolling Air Force Base and Andrews Air Force Base and other agencies as a contractor, back sometime shortly after I had left the Midwest, before ultimately moving farther east. And so still working to this day, as of this recording, as a government contractor. He said to me back just before I was at the Pentagon, some let's see, what was it? 2000, it's now 2000, almost a decade ago. Was it more than a decade ago? He said to me, Grove, I'm on vacation with my wife and my child, and I'm reading this book for work, because he had been at Microsoft and he had been working as a computer programmer like fresh out of the university, and had a wrestling scholarship. Dear friend of mine from childhood, he and I were both tested for the gifted program, grew up together, went to school together, had classes together. He lived with my family for a while, and because there were some things going on in his household, and just like when I ran away from my home and I went and lived with friends and other family members, he didn't run away from home. He just came and chilled with me, man. And so, but anyway, so decades down the road, you know, we keep in touch with each other and we share information about things that we've discovered in science, technology, business, and whatnot, and the world of politics and international affairs. We're at our core, man. We really are technical experts in what we know and what we've done. And so he says to me, because we're techies, we're tech guys, we come from the information technology, computer science, computer programming, legacy systems background. He says to me, Grove, I'm reading this book on vacation. It's like 1,000+ page book on the subject of computer object-oriented programming. And one of our mutual friends from childhood, he was talking about aspect-oriented programming some like decade and a half ago. And he says, and so this first friend of mine, he says, you know what I noticed, man? He said, now that I've been in the world of programming for like coming up on 2 decades now, back then, that was back then. He said, as I read this book, I realize the more and more that computer code becomes more object-oriented, and there are more books that are published on the subject, and as programming schemes become more and more advanced, I realize how analogous, how relatable this is to the natural environment, ecosystem, real world spectrum, universe, multiverse around us. He said, man, the world really is the Matrix. It really is almost exactly, if not identical to the Matrix. This computer code, he said, you can, quite literally, a person can, we can model the world and universes with code, like what I'm reading in this book, is what he told me. When he said that, it always stuck in my mind, man. It imprinted. It became an indelible memory. This book that I'm reading here, that I'm thumbing through, I'm looking at all these different equations, and I'm looking at all this stuff that we were never taught in high school, junior high school, elementary school, even in fucking college. Man, if this is declassified information, which it is, again, 1,300, this thing is fucking heavier than a phone book. This is literally heavier than a fucking phone book. I should throw this on a scale and weigh it. This thing is fucking thick, man. And it's not a light book. It's a thick book. This is a tome of information. This might, man, if you threw this fucking hard enough, man, with the impact, this might be able to break someone's fucking windshield. Like, their side window. This shit, not the front window, but definitely the side. Man, I mean, wow. Like, this is a this is a model of the universe. And to think that 95% of the universe is still undecoded, and how this represents merely 5%, just seeing what is in this book. These chapters here. Supersymmetric particle searches. These are just chapters. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. These are listings of different types of particle, subparticles, their characteristics, properties, attributes, how they behave. Look at this. Charmed baryons. Let me see. Let's go through here. Let's find something. Meson particle listings. These are just headings. These are chapter headings, index headings. I mean, this whole thing is a compendium of particles and subparticles. And I mean, so this really is like a cosmic telephone directory. I mean, really, truly, that's really the way that this can be viewed. The more I think about it, this is very much a cosmic telephone book to call up any type of particle, subparticle. And not just that, but highly descriptive information beyond just address of the particle, like where it's located in space-time, time-space. It describes the behavior of each particle and subparticle, its hypergeometry, again, its properties, spin, 3D, 4D, 5D. Look at this. Meson particle listings, page 840. B is in Bravo. Flavored hadrons. Wow. B flavored hadrons. Man, that's in the 800s section. They got charmed, strange mesons. Charmed, strange mesons. Imagine what people don't know. Imagine what's classified and not in this book. If you had this book in your possession right now, if you were flipping through it, it looks like Matrix code. I mean, quite frankly, man, the code that they show in the movie The Matrix, in the Matrix trilogy, the code that you see that's the backdrop, the background, the underlying schema of it all, the aesthetics there, when you see those moving lines and fields, those fields of text, those fields of data, characters, alpha characters, where it's like, whoa, what is that? It looks kind of like Hangul a little bit, kind of like Korean, kind of Chinese, kind of like some Mandarin, kind of hieroglyphic. Those are definitely those are definitely glyphs in some respect, in some way, totally glyphic. Like, what is that? It's gotta be alien. Like, that's some alien shit. Like, whoa, who created the construct of the Matrix, right? Like the movie Interstellar. Not gonna give any of it away, but if you've seen the movie Interstellar, same shit. Like, who created it? I won't even say what it is if you haven't seen the movie Interstellar. Some people may be saying, you mean space? I'm not going to tell you. No spoiler alert here. But he asked the question, like, who created this? So, when you read this book, if you're ever able to get a copy of this, when you flip through the pages, as I'm thumbing through the pages now, you see what exists around you in terms of particles and subparticles. And, I mean, God, like, This, in contrast to what you view with your human optics, your eyes and your five senses and your sixth sense, what you perceive in contrast to what is known in this book, this text, this body of information, my friend was absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And again, not only was he correct, and not only does this book represent merely approximately 5% of what's really out here in the multiverse, multi-space. My God. Imagine as I flip through these pages, imagine with me what is unknown in the cosmos, in the matrix, in the multiverse. I mean, there are so many references, listings, columns. This is not a typical book that the average high school student, graduate student would pick up this book. I'm saying someone who just graduated from high school in North America, our Western North American system of K through 12. Someone graduates from high school, picks up this book, comes to, that is, encounters, opens, looks at, views the very first fucking page. And what that person sees is that there is nothing in this book that resembles anything from life, from high school, from junior high school, from grammar school, from grade school, from anything that person was taught. It starts off with some type of data that is alien, that is unknown, that was not in, this isn't in calculus, man. This is non-applicable. I mean, yes, calculus can be applied. Calculus is the language of algebra. Yes, understood. But there are summaries, tables, different descriptive codes that are used here to, wow, page 46, quote, charge conjugation, parity CP or lepton, family LF violating modes. When did they start teaching charge conjugation, parity, lepton, family number violating modes? That's delta, so change in S is a constant equals 1 weak neutral current, S1 modes. This was never taught in our public school system. It's interesting. It's like someone doesn't want for people to know what's beyond the fourth dimension of time. This is really, really interesting. I mean, wow. Page 52, quote, leptonic and semi-leptonic modes. What? I mean, those are my proper scholarly citations. I won't say anything more. Buy the book, man. Buy the book. I mean, what? I mean, dude. What? This isn't normal stuff, man. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, so, first of all, what do you have to have a PhD in English alone just to understand the surface information here? I mean, just to understand the very basics of this, like, what is required? What is the prerequisite? A PhD in English? I mean, this is a different type of English here. This is not basic science. This is not intermediate science. This isn't advanced science. This is ultra advanced, thus meta advanced science. This is mind-bending information. This book, again, physics letters, review of particle physics, ScienceDirect.com. Yo, man, imagine what the government isn't telling the people. My God. I'm your boy, One Sir Grove, OSGOE.